on this Thursday night, delivering an overhaul. The major changes coming to Canada Post.
Something needs to happen if we want to preserve that institution.
Which service will be stamped out for millions of Canadians, and the backlash from the union. Law and order.
We need some changes.
The push to make it tougher for violent criminals to get bail. Mysterious drones over Europe. The suspicions Russia is to blame. Plus, going the distance like never before.
Yeah, my knees hurt, my feet, my hips, my shins, my everything.
The Canadian who shattered a record running around all of Iceland.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. Sweeping changes are coming to Canada Post, and the union representing postal workers says it is outraged and appalled. The corporation, which answers to the federal government, has been directed to permanently end what remains of door-to-door delivery and close some post offices. The only reason Canada Post still operates is because the government gives it financial assistance. The minister in charge says it's losing roughly $10 million a day and is facing an existential crisis.
We need to take the short-term and immediate steps that will allow Canada Post to, find a more stable financial footing. There are limits to our capacity to bail out Canada Post year after year.
Late today, in response, the union announced a nationwide strike effective immediately. Touria Izri has our top story tonight.
Canada Post is getting the go-ahead to dramatically scale back services as it stares down a bleak future.
At present, the corporation is losing $10 million every day. In short, Canada Post is effectively insolvent.
The minister responsible for the Postal Service unveiled a sweeping overhaul, ending home delivery to the 4 million Canadians who still get it. It will be phased out over the next 9 years, with the bulk of the changes over the next 4 years.
Something needs to happen if we want to preserve that institution. The goal ultimately is to save Canada Post.
The Canadian Union of Postal Workers, which represents 55,000 employees, is going on a nationwide strike.
There are people on picket lines as we speak. We don't want to be on strike, but the minister has kind of forced our hand today, and we need to get an offer from Canada Post.
The company sees it differently, saying it will allow the Crown Corporation to chart a sustainable path forward. But the announcement is intensifying an already bitter labor dispute that's dragged on nearly 2 years.
The union and the organization have to sit together and they have to figure out a deal.
There had been a ban since 2015 on switching to community mailboxes. Former Montreal Mayor Denis Coderre even took a jackhammer to one in protest. But a lot's changed since then. At the time, Ottawa says the company was still profitable. Letter service has dried up, while private competitors have taken over the parcel business.
There's a very serious situation. I think Canadians expect the government to manage serious situations.
The new measures also include ending a 30-year moratorium on closing rural offices and reducing Canada Post's delivery schedule, meaning it could take up to a week to receive a letter.
Those letter carriers are eventually going to be reduced, if not through immediate layoff, through attrition.
The federal government is giving Canada Post 45 days to come up with a plan, urging it to take a cold, hard look at management. But the minister did not answer questions about layoffs, which are almost certainly inevitable. Donna?
All right, Touria Izri in Montreal, thank you. Canada's Parliamentary Budget Officer is projecting that the federal deficit for 2025-26 will climb faster than expected. The PBO forecasts a deficit of $68.5 billion this fiscal year, up from just over $51 billion the year before. The office also projects the debt to GDP ratio will increase, climbing above 43% over the medium term. That outlook does not include the planned increase in defense spending or promised cuts to the public service, but does take into account $115 billion in new spending and lower revenues because of the American trade war with Canada. The report sets the stage for the first federal budget of the Carney government. We'll have special coverage of that on November 4th, right here on Global. The federal government has been under pressure to tighten Canada's bail system, making it harder for those accused of serious crimes to be released pending their trial. The Prime Minister has said he is committed to fixing the criminal code, and today MPs on the Justice Committee got to work on what to include in the new legislation. David Akin explains.
Frontline police officers are unanimous.
In the City of Toronto, we have a violence epidemic, and we need some changes to bail, to parole, for gun crime, to try and keep the members we represent safe.
Well, police officers are arresting the same person within hours or within days.
The push by police to tighten bail rules got stronger after the 2022 murder of an Ontario provincial police constable near Barrie, Ontario. One of the individuals convicted of that murder, of Constable Greg Priscilla, had been out on bail while awaiting trial for assaulting a police officer and for weapons offenses. Conservatives cited the case of Bailey McCourt, a BC woman who was murdered in July. Her ex-husband is accused of killing her hours after he was released from custody to await sentencing on charges of assault and uttering threats. But now, the governing Liberals are aligned with the priorities of their political opponents on crime.
Will he work with us and quickly fast-track Conservative laws if they won't bring legislation to the House themselves?
The member opposite might be careful what he asks for, because he will have the opportunity to vote for strong, crime-fighting, Liberal legislation.
Both parties are committed to making it harder for anyone accused of gun crimes, home invasions, or carjackings to get bail.
It is rare in Canadian politics to see such broad agreement across party lines, and it would be a profound missed opportunity if Parliament failed to act.
This is just the first of 8 meetings that the Justice Committee will have ahead of making recommendations to Justice Minister Sean Fraser. And Fraser says he's hoping to table the Liberal tough-on-crime bill by late October. Donna.
All right, David Akin in Ottawa, thank you. Ontario Premier Doug Ford is promising to ban the use of municipal speed cameras in that province, claiming they're nothing but a cash grab and do nothing more to make the roads safer, even though mayors and police chiefs have defended the use of the cameras. Global's Ontario Legislative Bureau Chief Colin DeMello explains.
It's a divisive device that's pitting municipalities against the provincial government. Automated speed enforcement cameras have been popping up across Ontario, leading to a wave of complaints about the tickets that follow.
People who'd never gotten a speeding ticket in their entire driving lives being dinged with not 1, not 2, but in some cases 6, 7, 8 tickets.
While some municipalities have started deactivating the cameras, the Premier is now targeting the policy province-wide.
In a few weeks, our government will introduce legislation to ban speed cameras in Ontario, to protect taxpayers and drivers and stop them from being gouged.
The Premier argues that the volume of tickets being issued is evidence that the program isn't working. Drivers who know of their locations, the Premier says, slow down, while others are simply caught unaware. Instead, the government says it's willing to pay for other traffic calming measures, like oversized signs and permanent infrastructure that the government said would make a difference.
If you don't know where that speed camera is, you're zipping by. But if you have a speed bump, you aren't zipping by at all. Or if you have a roundabout, you aren't zipping by. And the warning with the flashing signs coming at you, you know to slow down.
But the province is also at odds with itself. The Ford government approved the speed camera policy in 2019 and set the fines in 2022. It also raised speed limits on some provincial highways.
Well, for us, it's about law, any posted speed limit, abiding by that. It's about personal responsibility. But we can take more measures around school zones, which will actually limit the speed while they enter that zone. And that's exactly what we're focusing on, is proactive rather than reactive.
The province says legislation will be tabled in October. For now, though, the cost of removing and replacing the speed cameras is being kept under wraps. At Queen's Park, Colin DeMello, Global News.
For the second time in a week, drones have hovered over airports and military bases at night in Denmark. The Danish government believes the incursions are the work of what they call professional actor. There have been sightings in other European countries too. Russia is suspected, though as Vincent McAviney reports, who is behind it remains a mystery.
In the dark skies over Denmark's Aalborg airport, light-emitting drones shut down operations for several hours on Wednesday night. The airport is used for both commercial and military flights, and incoming planes were forced to divert. Spotted on camera, the drones also shut down 4 other airports in what the country's defense minister says is a systematic operation and a hybrid attack. He stopped short of accusing Russia outright, blaming a professional actor for now. Earlier this week, Copenhagen and Norway's Oslo airports were closed due to similar drone incursions. Suspicious drones have also been sighted over fellow NATO members Germany and Sweden in recent months. Russia denies involvement but has been accused of staging hybrid attacks in the past, using a mix of military and non-military tactics to interfere with the nation's infrastructure or test institutions' resolve.
We in Europe definitely need to be prepared to push back against these kinds of provocations. Denmark, of course, has been at the forefront of European support for Ukraine. And I think it's pretty clear that we see countries being targeted here in Europe who are sort of strong supporters of Ukraine. And I think there's a clear Russian motive, which is to try and discourage us from continuing our support for Ukraine.
In the past month, Russian fighter jets and drones have flown over Estonian, Romanian and Polish airspace, prompting US President Donald Trump to say NATO should begin shooting them down. Passengers are getting on with their journeys, but there are questions as to why Denmark hasn't deployed technology NATO has to bring these drones down, given the scale of the threat to aircraft. Vincent McAviney, Global News, London.
The North American Aerospace Defense Command, NORAD, confirmed today it detected and tracked 4 Russian warplanes near Alaska yesterday. NORAD says U.S. fighter jets were scrambled to identify and intercept 2 Russian bombers and 2 Russian fighter jets. They were flying within the Alaskan Air Defense Identification Zone, which is international airspace that borders U.S. and Canadian airspace. It is the 9th time this year NORAD reported an incident involving Russian aircraft near Alaska. Israel has not stopped its assault on Gaza. At least 43 Palestinians have been killed in Israeli strikes today, including 11 children. That is according to Gaza's health ministry. Residential buildings and refugee tents were among the sites hit today as Israel's military moves deeper into the heart of Gaza City. Gaza's health ministry says more than 65,000 Palestinians have been killed since the October 7th attacks on Israel nearly 2 years ago. And in the occupied West Bank, Israel says it will partially reopen the only international crossing after closing it earlier this week. It says the Allenby Bridge into Jordan will reopen Friday, but for passenger traffic only. It was closed indefinitely on Tuesday, days after a truck driver bringing aid from Jordan to Gaza fatally shot 2 Israeli soldiers there. It's the only entry point to the West Bank that does not go through Israel, and it's controlled by Israeli soldiers. A Paris court has sentenced former French President Nicolas Sarkozy to 5 years in prison for criminal conspiracy. Sarkozy was found guilty of attempting to finance his 2007 election campaign with funds from Libya. He was cleared of other charges, including passive corruption and illegal campaign financing. Sarkozy, who was president of France from 2007 to 2012, calls the ruling a scandalous injustice and says he plans to appeal. Weaponizing the justice system. Coming up, how the U.S. president appears to be trying to punish his enemies through the courts. The American president has signed an executive order which approves putting U.S. users of social media giant TikTok under the control of U.S. investors and says China's president approves of it.
I had a very good talk with President Xi. I had a lot of respect for him.
The deal satisfies a U.S. national security law that required the Chinese-owned app to sell its U.S. operations or be banned from the country. It is said to be valued at about $14 billion. The U.S. version of the app will be run by a consortium of American owners, including media mogul Rupert Murdoch and Larry Ellison, chairman of the tech company Oracle. The U.S. Justice Department has indicted former FBI Director James Comey, accusing him of making false statements and obstructing justice. During his first term in office, Trump fired Comey over his probe into Russian interference in the 2016 election. Now, as Jackson Prosco explains, Comey has joined a growing list of Donald Trump's longtime opponents facing retribution through the justice system.
Thank you very much.
From the White House, President Donald Trump continued his open attacks on former FBI Director James Comey.
Comey's a bad person. He's a sick person. I think he's a sick guy, actually. He did terrible things at the FBI.
Soon after, a federal grand jury indicted Comey, marking a stunning turn, with the Justice Department carrying out the prosecution at the direct request of the president.
They're criminals, and they made it very tough. You know, they did the fake Russia witch hunt.
Comey was fired by Trump during Trump's first term over his investigation into the Trump campaign and alleged ties to Russia. The former FBI director has been a vocal critic of the president, alleging Trump has politicized the justice system.
Prosecutions are supposed to be done based on the facts and the law, and prosecutors are supposed to be independent from political pressure.
That hasn't been the case in the second Trump era, with the president vowing retribution against those who investigated and even prosecuted him.
That's the whole weaponization of our political justice system that Trump's and other Republicans have really railed against.
It's a perilous new age for the American justice system, with some career prosecutors ousted for failing to bend to the whims of the administration.
You don't want a universe in which that pressure distorts the prosecutorial judgment and makes prosecutors make charging decisions based not on the evidence, but on what they think will please the president.
Trump keeps pushing, demanding investigations into Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff, New York Attorney General Letitia James, and Democratic megadonor George Soros. Even if they're charged, it's not clear they'd be convicted, especially if the president's own words are seen to have tipped the scales of justice. Jackson Prosco, Global News, Washington.
Starbucks says it is closing stores and laying off workers across Canada and the U.S. as part of a $1 billion restructuring plan. About 900 non-retail employees are expected to receive layoff notices on Friday. The CEO of Starbucks says many locations are falling short of their financial targets or expectations set by the customers. The coffee chain appears to be struggling. This is their second round of mass layoffs this year. 5 days and still no sign of a missing boy in the southern Alberta wilderness. Ahead, the unique methods search crews are using to try to find him. Rescuers in southern Alberta are expanding their search grid and remain hopeful they can find a missing boy. Darius McDougall didn't return after going for a walk with 6 family members while camping near Crow's Nest Pass on Sunday. Police originally said he was 5 years old. Now they say he is 6. He has autism, and as Heather Yurex West reports, crews are taking that into account as they search for him.
Within an otherwise idyllic fall scene, one family's nightmare stretches into a 5th heart-wrenching day. An expanding search team holds on to hope they can locate Darius McDougall somewhere within this rugged terrain.
The priorities remain pushing further out routes that Darius may have traveled on, while continuing to cover areas previously searched.
Because Darius is on the autism spectrum and may not respond to calls, searchers have adapted their approach. Loud noises are being avoided in favor of sounds that may draw him out.
There's a particular song that appeals to him, and that's been used extensively during the search.
The 6-year-old had been among a group of children out walking near a campground Sunday morning. Police say there were no adults with the group at the time he disappeared. The young witnesses who were the last to see Darius being interviewed by police.
It won't be an interrogation. The officer is going to have to be really trained not to ask leading questions or questions that they think will, elicit more detail. Artificially. So it has to be a real kind of slow process.
With the weather cooling, the overnight low dipped to 3 degrees Wednesday night. There is renewed concern for the boy's well-being. Search crews say they believe he's still alive. This isn't the first time a child has become lost alone in the Canadian wilderness. It's why free programs like Adventure Smart's Hug a Tree and Survive have been developed and made available nationally to teach kids as young as 5 critical skills that could save their life.
They're encouraged to hug a tree and stay put. That tree is their home away from home until they're found. And by not moving, by staying put, makes it easier for search and rescue to find them, and often in better condition.
In the Crow's Nest Pass, organizers say the search for Darius McDougall will continue until he's found. Heather Yurex West, Global News, Calgary.
I'm coming for you, Reykjavik! Let's go! Woo!
Meet the Canadian who decided it was a good idea to run all around Iceland. That's next.
the time to kick.
FIFA has unveiled its mascots for the 2026 World Cup in North America. The characters are cute, if a bit stereotypical. There is Maple the Moose for Canada, Zayu the Jaguar for Mexico, and Clutch the Bald Eagle for the United States. The tournament kicks off next June. For most Canadians, going out for a run is a way to keep fit and clock up a few kilometers. But for extreme runners, that is child's play. A Nova Scotia man decided it was a good idea to run around the entire island of Iceland, and he did it in record time. Heidi Petrachik spoke with him about the pain and the perseverance of pulling it off.
If you're thinking Ryan Keeping looks like he's in pain, you'd be right.
Yeah, my knees hurt, my feet, my hips, my shins, my everything. It's just all windburn there, and it was all bubbling up, and kind of the skin was coming off.
They're the scars of his success, because just last week, Keeping was doing this.
30 kilometers left!
Pounding the pavement towards setting a new record for running around the entire country of Iceland. That's 1,389 kilometers in punishing conditions.
There was hail, there was rain. The mornings were cold. When you're by the glacier, it's cold. You'd go up massive hills and stuff, and like 100-kilometer headwinds for probably 70% of the day.
On the East Coast, Keeping is known for his grit and determination, running 250K dressed as Santa Claus to raise money for sick kids and their families, and emulating his hero Terry Fox by running across Canada in 99 days, raising more than $200,000 for the Heart and Stroke Foundation.
My whole purpose is to inspire people. I think the best way to inspire someone is to chase your dreams and your passions as hard as you possibly can.
But the chase isn't always easy. In Iceland, Keeping's final day looked rough.
But when I'm doing something that's this big, you just have to. I have to pretend that there's no other option but to keep going.
But he made it and set that new record at 14 days, 13 hours, 38 minutes. Looking back at that moment, he hopes his pursuits encourage others.
It's your life. You're the one that has to live it every day, so live it to the exact way you want to and chase your dreams.
As for what's next, he hasn't decided yet, but knows his passion is his path. Heidi Petrachik, Global News, Halifax.
That is Global National for this Thursday. I'm Donna Friesen. Tonight's Your Canada showcases Widgeon Valley National Wildlife Area in BC, the Centre of Canada Park in Taché, Manitoba, and Admiral's Beach, Newfoundland and Labrador. Please keep them coming. Send your pictures of Canadian pride to Global National at globalnews.ca. And thanks for watching. Jeff Semple is at the anchor desk tomorrow, and I will see you again in early October. Bye-bye.